Hey guys, and welcome back to the Divine Witch. So today we are going to um, dive into Sabrina, the Teenage Witch, and kind of give you my thoughts and my opinions on the whole series. Just to kind of tell you my thoughts about it, along with some of the things I agreed with that were showed, some of the things maybe I didn't. Um, and we'll just kind of go over that today. So, just to let you guys know that if you haven't seen it, I do want to let you know there is going to be spoilers in this. So, let's dive in. So, with this last season, over the last couple seasons with Sabrina, as far as social media is going, and as far as, what we see of Sabrina, there has been a lot of pros and cons to the show itself. Now, the Baphomet statue was a real big controversy, especially when we were dealing with the Satanic Church. They were not authorized to use that in the beginning. And if we notice as the seasons went on, it slowly began to change. Now, in our last season that we left off with before this new season, it was basically Sabrina going against the pagans and the old pagan gods, as if this was some kind of battle of good versus evil. And the last one that episode we seen in that season, the coven that used to follow the Dark Lord is currently now following Hecate. Now, the issue that I had with this last season is because Hecate would be considered a pagan goddess. If you look at the term paganism, paganism is anything that is not Judeo Christian, Muslim belief. It's a wide spectrum. And some of the gods that we had seen in the previous season, such as Pan and them, were actually pagan gods. Um, so, that's one of the main issues that I had with last season is like, you make pagans out to be this horrible thing. And yet at the end, here we are, and we got a pagan goddess. So the goddess of all witches, not just one witch over another. And that right there kind of made me go, okay, well, that was kind of stupid. I'm not sure if anybody else had this response when they seen that, or like, bringing in paganism to a bad light, or maybe it was structured that way in the actual comics. Me personally, I'm not a huge comic fan as far as the series goes, but they were pretty much trying their best to stay true while still staying relevant. So I think it comes through. Now, when we go into this season, there is a whole different structure in the beginning, and it is of Hecate, which they called Hecate during the show, which when it comes to the pronunciation, if you look at the actual Greek pronunciation, H is really one of those kind of like silent. You never really hear it. So it's actually Hecate. And, I mean, that's just personal preference. It really doesn't matter. For some it does, for some it doesn't. So as we go in, we see this beautiful statue of the three-faced goddess. And as we start into that very first episode, we have this very beautiful prayer amongst the coven of witches, which I've got to say, the vibrations and just the feeling of it, and seeing of the statue and seeing Hecate represented in such a way, I was actually thankful for, because before the season started, I was really worried that they were really going to do a bad job with representing Hecate. I don't know if they've seen the backlash on some things or not with the pagan community. And I know they have with, like I said, the Satanic Church. But there was a lot of blurred lines before the season and towards the end of the season, the difference between Satanism, the Satanic Church, their beliefs into Satanism, and Luciferianism. They're two different broad spectrums. And if you don't know anything about the difference between Satanism and Luciferian, I would highly recommend looking into it, diving deeper, because they are two different entities in themselves. Now, as we go into this new season, like I said, they represented her very well. But of course, I was sitting there back watching the series, and I binge watched it like for like 8 hours or more. Just waiting for, something bad to come through, like a misrepresentation. And I was shocked and I was surprised and I was actually happy that I did not see that, because it would have, one, made me upset, because as you guys know, I am a follower of Hecate. I love her. I've been a devotee for a very long time, and I am a priestess underneath her name. And, you know, there is a lot of talk of her being the Dark Mother. And, that's one of the things. She is a Dark Mother, but she is also more than a Dark Mother. And there was a lot of things that were showed. And I'm going to go over some more of the examples. Besides just the opening, there was a part where Lilith, which for those of you who do not know the mythology of Lilith, Lilith was casted out of heaven. And she was basically the first witch, first demon to walk the earth. And she was pregnant with Lucifer's child, to which the gentleman in last season that basically tried to banish Sabrina was actually trying to kill Lilith in this season. And it gets pretty dark. I don't want to ruin everything for you, but there was a birthing ritual that was being shown. And as I'm watching it, like, there's just some things that when you watch and the way that it's interpreted and the energy that it gives off, that just makes the hair stand up on you. And this was definitely one of them scenes. It is not an uncommon practice with among those who follow Hecate for you to have your coven or your sisters or the ones around you to be part of the process. This is an old tradition, and it was beautifully represented in this moment of sharing the pain, the screaming, the chants, the being surrounded by your sisters in the circle as life is coming into being. One of the things with Hecate is she is a protector of children. She is a protector of mothers. She is a protector of the unborn. So this was very symbolic. And the way that they did it, the cinematography for it, I loved it. And it was a very great representation of Hecate in this light and showing her mother side and the nurturing side, not just the dark side when one needs to be protected. And when we go and speak of being protected, there's a few more scenes where Hecate is called on and used to, as the coven uses, to protect themselves, along with protecting the individuals in the coven. And one of the things that you'll see, especially when you get to the part with the two kings, is the pain of childbirth and bringing that pain down. And, as far as like, seeing it, it's great to see as always, but realistically, this isn't something that you're going to see in real life, even though I think, staying true to the mothering aspect, they did very wonderful with it. And when we talk about the mothering aspect, you'll notice also in the beginning that they dedicated 3 different people for the 3 different phases. You've got the maiden, the mother, and the crone, and there was 3 individuals for that. And that is customary when you're dealing with a Hecate clan. You will have 3 people embodiment of her, and together they work as one. So it's very beautiful and very well put. Now, there was a few hidden things that I don't know if anybody really paid attention or noticed enough to actually put together. But if you get to the scene where you have Blackwood's daughter along with the voodoo priestess, and then there is another individual as well, I think it was the guy who is Sabrina's cousin, if I remember right. And they there's a triquetra. There is the representation of the fates, of prophecy coming in. And actually, I know who the third one was. The third one was actually Sabrina's friend. But you guys will see it. It's beside the point. But the representation of the three fates, being able to look in the past, the present, and the future, that representation was very well put. If you look at some of the Greek mythology, there is the whole belief that, Hecate works with the fates, or Hecate is the fates as well, that she is intertwined because she looks at the different paths. She is the three-faced goddess, the threefold goddess. She knows everything that has been, will be, and is currently happening. And it was just a beautiful representation of the connection of that this show did, show in a light. Now, as we start going on, one of the things that I was kind of disappointed in the show that they did not do, and that would have been you never see Hecate, however you wish to foresee her as or pronounce her name to be, that you never see a physical embodiment of her. And there is discussions that she is older than Lucifer. She is more powerful than any other gods or goddesses because she is the one where all the universe has been centered from. And I've heard this philosophy. If you look back at any of her mythos, she does transcend through time and through pantheons. You just got to know what to look for. But there's not really a whole bunch of representation as far as her appearing. You've got all these other characters who have shown themselves, and yet you never really see her. So it's one of those things where it's like she's always hidden to only be revealed to those who seek her guidance. And they brought up a lot about the crossroads, which I think was also another thing that they did good with. But as far as, seeing her, or at least having that image, that embodiment, there was none of that. And that's one thing I think they lacked on. I think there was some things that they could have done a little bit better, but they did not. Now, as we get towards the ending of the show, there is a moment where Hilda and Zelda are looking at the statue, and there's a question that is brought up: why did this happen? Why are they no longer here? And that's the thing. When we work with Hecate and we look at it from a symbolic standpoint, nothing is ever guaranteed. And to have the keeper of knowledge and the keeper of keys, she knows things that will be and are and has been, as I stated. And in this moment, there was no better choice, for the fact that this was her burden to bear. This was the key that she was meant to lead. This was the box that she was meant to protect. And sometimes sacrifices have to be made. And unfortunately, there was a sacrifice that was made that did not make a lot of people happy. Now, if we look at the series all together, not just this season, I've had my issues with Sabrina. And for this reason, like I said before, we had Satanism and Luciferian being skewed. If they are staying true to the comments, or comics, that's where it comes into play. But I do feel like there should have been some distinction in between that. And the thing about shows like this and shows that come into being when it starts talking about magic and witchcraft, you have two different types of people who see it. One who see it and see it as entertainment value only, which is great. And then you have some that see it as it sparks something in them. They want to know more. They get this vision of a certain thing being a certain way, but yet they don't know what it entitles. And the bad thing is when you get introduced to something and you're not quite getting exactly the truth, and you're not one to go seek the truth or know where to find it, you get people dabbling into things that they shouldn't, which is one of the things that I have an issue with. But that's more of on a person-to-person basis. And that happens with anything, you can't stop what people will do. You just hope that they're smart enough to know how to do it right. So I figured since the season has ended, you're getting a lot of videos out there about what is paganism, what isn't paganism. And also, satanic witches is another thing that comes up. And, a lot of us have been trying to get rid of this image of satanic witches or Luciferian witches, or Luciferian would actually be the actual right term to be using. This notion that there's witches working for the devil, which, funny, which, anyway. So it is true that there are some from the Luciferian path who use the occult to better themselves and use it within their practice and their magic. That much is true. But are all witches the same? No. That's why one of our mottos here on this channel is no two witches are the same, because our paths are different, just like we are different as people. We may share similarities, but it doesn't mean that we share the same beliefs and the same vision of either unity or not unity. The same concept of good and evil. What may be good for you may not be good for them, vice versa. So I wanted to put this video out there so that way we could talk about it. And, like I said, most of us have tried to get away from this. And people are like, it's also like with Christian witches on the other end of the spectrum. And you've got a lot of pagans out there who will say, well, Christian witches aren't real. They're not a thing. It's just malarkey, pretty much. But every path has some kind of magical aspect to it if you know what you're looking at and you know what you're trying to find. And I think the same thing applies here. And I wish this was something that maybe the creators or the writers or the people of the show would put out. Normally when they do these shows, they pick certain individuals to come out, help them, make sure they're doing things right, getting their information right, and, how they're displaying it. And I believe as far as like the holidays, all the holidays have been very beautifully displayed. And from, Beltane all the way to Samhain to Yule, a lot of great stories they've shown and intertwined for entertainment value. But the core beliefs of the things that they showed was, for the untrained eye, it just seems like whatever. But for those of us who follow the path, there is some light in this darkness, so to speak. So, it's kind of one of those double-edged swords. There's stuff in there for entertainment. There's stuff in there that is actual fact. But that's kind of like anything that we do, especially when it comes to the magical path. You've got to weed through the information you find with a grain of salt. And that's what we try to do here on this channel. So, overall, I give the last season, high regards. There was a few things that I think that could have made it better, but they were trying to end it and be true to the fans who were watching the show and who've dedicated themselves to supporting the show over the last few seasons. Now, as I told you guys, there is talks that HBO is going to take over Sabrina. Currently, right now, we haven't heard if whether or not those rumors are fact, or if they are actually going to be validated. But if they do, it makes you wonder, how is HBO going to portray this? Are they going to make it more funny and lighthearted? Or are they going to go more darker with it and make it into something that doesn't even respect any magical path, and they just make a pure fantasy? And that's kind of one of the things that I've been thinking about. Now, from those of us who used to watch Sabrina back in the day till now, there is a crossover. It's all right, but I feel like the way that they marketed the crossover, I was thinking it was going to be something that would happen throughout the whole season. And it did not. But was it bad? No. But if you talk about the crossover, the way that they had for months on end, and the little Easter eggs they laid upon the way, you think that it would have been a full switch. But it, in a way, it kind of makes fun of the old show while not making fun of it. And then there is a piece to it that you never really, it's, you'll have to watch it, but you'll see what I'm talking about once they go through the mirror and stuff like that. But overall, it's not a bad show. Just remember to take anything like this with a grain of salt, as always, and enjoy it. And who knows, maybe if HBO decides to pick it up, we can go in it from a pagan perspective and kind of dissect what did they get right, what did they get wrong. And I also kind of wonder, I never really understand how they find these people that give them advice towards the shows and the movies. I don't know if there's just one that they choose or how they choose it to actually interject their own perspectives into it. But if this does continue and keeps on going, I do hope that instead of just doing one perspective, they get more people on board than just one. That way it's more well-rounded, more thought out, and kind of gives more knowledge on the different perspectives than just, someone giving their input and saying, here, do this. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for joining me once again. We are going back to our regular upload schedule of every Monday information videos. It can be anything like you guys see, from entertainment reviews to tarot unboxing to pagan lifestyle and rituals, spell work, things like that. Make sure to hit the notification bell. Also, on Wednesdays, we will be doing Meditation Wednesdays live here on this channel, starting at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please join us for a guided meditation every Wednesday. And as always, we go live throughout the week doing tarot readings on this channel. So please feel free to come in, join, talk. You can ask questions from videos along with whatever it else is you're searching for. So thank you guys so much for subscribing. We just hit 500 subscribers. We're actually over now. And I just wanted to say once again, thank you. Thank you for supporting me, and thank you for supporting this channel. And with that saying, blessed be.